Thank you. I just have a couple of quick comments, and that is, as I have indicated in the past, my blog, which again spoke of the possibility of creating a park and recreation department for the village, was an idea that I threw out there. It was not anything cast in stone. It was to stimulate conversation and debate. And I found it interesting, actually, that this was an item that was placed on the Audit and Finance Commission agenda for the last meeting. I was not able to attend that meeting. I had another engagement that night. I actually went to the Cubs game, which probably I should have showed up for the other one. It didn't work out too well. But I would like to say that, you know, Trustee Humpher, what you're saying about the Parks and Recreation Department and the Park District, Manager Anderson and myself, we did meet with both Tom Amoser and Frank Scarpelli, the president of the Dundee Township Park District. We did discuss those items at length as to, and that's the purpose of this. It is to get some discussion going to see if there are things that we are missing that we maybe should be taking advantage of. And I think we had a very good meeting, with the Park District representatives. We have other issues in this village beyond, what the Park District is responsible for. That actually that blog suggestion came from, and that is we have a lot of. The Ivy Wall is a very good example of what I'm talking about. The Ivy Wall is a situation where we had a contractor actually who was contracted to come in and cut our grass in our parks, not maintain the Ivy Wall project that had been turned over to the village. And we have a lot of other areas that are common areas in the village that are very unsightly, that need to be addressed. And those are not issues that the Park District are really involved with. So, my original comment about us maybe creating a Parks Committee, or not a committee, but a Parks and Recreation Department, even if it's just a couple of people, even if it's just a director who advises the village on what we could be doing better to improve the overall appearance of our village. We're talking about possibly getting $1,300,000 from the state of Illinois for a grant to improve the Route 25 corridor, which would include maybe making a grassy median area. Who's going to maintain that area? We don't have staff right now that's going to do that. These are things that we have to take into consideration, and who's going to pick up the ball and run with this? I don't think it's fair to ask volunteers to be doing things that are actually a professional's job, and that's what this is all about. Some of these things need to have professional supervision, and we have no one on staff that has that kind of first of all, freedom to do those kind of jobs. We have one public works employee that's dedicated to our parks, to all of the parks that we own in the village. We have one employee that's dedicated to doing the park work, and in my opinion, it's unacceptable that we don't have a better plan in place to take care of some of the areas that we need to address. So that was the reason for raising this issue. It wasn't to criticize, the Park District. It was to point out that we have areas in this village that aren't currently being taken care of, that should be, in my opinion. That's my opinion. It's not everybody's opinion, it's mine. So what I'm saying is that is my opinion, that we should be doing better than what we're doing. And it's no reflection on our current staff, because we don't have anybody on staff that's dedicated to do this. We don't have any trained staff to actually take care of events. Parks and Recreation, is something that a lot of cities and villages have because they want to do a professional job in taking care of special events and those kind of things that I just mentioned. So, that was the purpose in doing that.
Well, I agree discussion's important, and we had a very good discussion, I thought, at the Audit and Finance Commission relative to what the Park District does. There were some things that were mentioned that I was concerned about. There was, I think, a suggestion that, you know, there's a lot of money collected from Carpentersville residents, and is it being used fairly within Carpentersville? And that was one thing I wanted to get my arms around to understand. I was surprised to learn that we have 31 parks in Carpentersville. I would have never have guessed that, but then when I start thinking about the times I've walked this village, yeah, I'm not surprised that there's 26 parks that the Park District is handling on behalf of the village. The other thing too is, you know, one of our roles within the Audit and Finance Commission is to look where money's going to be spent, and we've got a budget coming up very soon, and I think it's important to understand, do we need to devote money to this particular issue or not? And we looked at this from a financial perspective, as well as you know, what could be done to improve the village. But I think mainly we're considering what are we going to do if we take on this role that you're suggesting. And I thought it was a good discussion. I wouldn't misinterpret what I'm saying as somehow criticizing the Park District or the Parks Committee within Carpentersville, or even our guy that handles the parks in the village. Could it improve? Yes, there's probably a lot of things that we could do to improve in the village, but we just wanted to have a discussion on it. Something was brought forward. We seem to be responding to these requests, and I don't think it was inappropriate to have it within the discussion of the Audit and Finance Commission. Like I said, we have a budget coming up, and we have to understand where we're going to lay the money, and residents are going to be looking at that because it's going to be a tough budget season with this new bond we just took on. So I'm concerned, and I'm preparing myself to have a very lively and difficult budget discussion for this upcoming year, because, you know, what's going on in the economy, the bond we have to pay, requests for new departments. I think all that has to be weighed, and so this was a prelude to that discussion.
Yeah. That's fine, but I'm just saying that, you know, I was surprised actually that it was on there, because, you know, this was a suggestion that was made. It was not anything that was you know, cast in concrete. It was just it was something to stimulate debate and discussion.
And
I think it did that.
When we were done, we took it as a suggestion.
And so what I'm saying is that you know, to put it on as a item, you know, for review for, you know, whether or not we're going to do it, that was premature, because, you know, the fact of the matter is we have not even fully examined, you know, what our needs are at this point, what areas that we would have to take care of, and, you know, I just don't really see the point in, you know, having this discussion at this point. I think it's premature.
Mr. President?
May I?
If I could just clarify one thing. The reason why it was on the agenda for the meeting last week of the Audit and Finance Commission was because at the prior meeting we were asked to keep it on the agenda. And I think the intent there was to just give updates or follow-ups, because at that point we had talked about perhaps having a meeting with Mr. Scarpelli and Mr. Mamoser. So that's why it was on the agenda.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Trustee Sigwalt?
I would just like to say that I was present at that Audit and Finance Committee meeting when you suggested that suggestion, and at that committee meeting, it was the consensus of the Audit and Finance members to bring in Frank Scarpelli to get more information. I attended that meeting to get more information. I hope the minutes reflect that, because I did attend that meeting. I do believe there were some other members there too that can corroborate that. The Audit and Finance Commission just did what they were requested to do.
Well, Trustee Sigwalt, in all due respect, I was also there, and there was, you know, it was on the agenda. It was mentioned that we should probably ask the Park District to open their books to the village to see what, you know, what was currently going on. But there was no discussion about having President Scarpelli come to the Audit and Finance meeting. It was it was a request for us to sit down, Manager Anderson and myself, and, go through the situation with, Mr. Scarpelli and Mr. Mammoser, and we did that. And I mean, we explored that.
Well, I think
That
Manager
was-
Anderson clarified it was on there because it was asked to be on there.
Well, it was asked to be on there because of the fact that we were going to have the meeting. That's why it was on there. Okay, let's move along.